What is going on, y'all? Today's review is, of course, one that we have all been building up these last few months now. This is the brand new for 2024 20-foot haunted tree with a ghost on top. This one is, of course, being sold exclusively at Home, as you can tell instantly by the tag right there. We first saw this one because what's odd about this year is that nothing was leaked officially about At Home beforehand. We just started finding out stuff when they literally started showing up on store shelves. And this one actually it just showed up. And by just, I mean like they must have just put it out at my store today or last night. And so the first time we actually saw this one was actually someone posted a little walkthrough of what they had set up at the time in June. And it was this little piece of paper that kind of showed what everything was going to be and how it was going to set up in the final store display. And that's when we first saw this pretty low quality picture of this one, and that's when everyone started getting super excited about it. But it was just a couple days ago, I think, that finally someone posted a in-depth kind of real in-person picture of it, and something that instantly caught people's eyes were that it has LEDs rather than C7s, which you'd think would be good, but actually some people were saying it looked pretty cheap looking. But I said, hold on guys, it might have short circuit. And I know some other people have pointed that out too, that doesn't mean that just because it has LEDs, it's just steady bent LEDs. It could be short circuit. But the more that I look at this box and the more that everyone had pointed out what the box looked like, it does not look like that is the case. It looks like this is just basic LEDs, nothing special about it, which I don't know. Before I make, a stern opinion on that one, on the fact that it has LEDs, I'd like to just go ahead and check it out in person to see if it actually lights up the inflatable well enough. So that's what we're, of course, going to do today in this review. And let's get right into the review with the box art. So, of course, just like every other inflatable being sold at Home this year, it has just the basic airblend inflatable box art with the At Home exclusive tag and the easy find tag up there in the corner. Every side is pretty much the same, it's just the same picture of it. On the back here, of course, there's the diagram of the person standing next to it to show its height. Something that I already think is kind of about it is that ghost on top being kind of too big. It doesn't really even need a ghost on top, in my opinion. I think the tree itself should just be 20 feet, but what makes it even worse is that ghost on top it's got to be like at least 4, maybe 5 feet. So that takes severely away from the actual tree's size. So the tree itself is only about 15, maybe 16 feet. So that's already something that I have to complain about here before I even have it unboxed, is I don't like how big that ghost is and how the ghost is really unnecessary, and I think it was just slapped on it. Honestly, I thought when we saw that diagram picture of it that ghost was its own thing standing behind the tree, but no, it is actually part of the tree, which is kind of odd, but also, it could accent the inflatable better. I don't know. We'll see when I have it inflated here. As you can see, the LED tag, that comes on all base fan inflatables, but this one actually is true. It does have LEDs. So other than that, that is pretty much just the box art, other than the At Home exclusive tags and the price tag up there. That is the only thing that's special about this box. So let's go ahead and get this guy unboxed and inflated. Well, right off the bat, there is a massive disadvantage to this design, is that it, of course, has a YF 80. Now, some people, actually I heard from some people that the rumor mill was kind of saying that it was actually a 60, so I guess in that context, this is actually some good news because it has an 80 instead of a 60, but honestly, no 20-footer, no Colossal in general should ever not have a tornado fan. So right off the bat, never mind the LEDs instead of C7s, this is the big issue, that it has an 80 rather than a tornado fan. But we will see how well it inflates in a second here, so let's go ahead and get this guy inflated. So here it is fully inflated, and of course it really wouldn't be one of my reviews without some immediate complaints. The first and the biggest is this 80 is completely unacceptable. It absolutely 100% needs that 125, not just because of its size, but because of those arms in particular. Because once rain and stuff gets in those arms, it can't support itself to lift itself back up. I already know that for a fact, because just inflated right here with like very little wind, it looks very weak. Obviously you can see a lot of those wrinkles in it, and it just does not look like it inflates very well. So obviously right off the bat, I think something I'm gonna have to do is replace it with a 125. For me, this was such a pretty good design that I feel like, because it doesn't have the right equipment, which I can always swap out, that was not the biggest concern of mine to like not buy it. Like, I know some people are boycotting this one because of how cheap it is, but that's just my first impression. Let's go ahead and get an up close look at this guy. So something else besides the fan that I'd really like to talk about that I actually like, so this is a pro of this design, is all the tether attachments. So I don't actually have colossal tethers on it right now, but I'm just using the regular base fan stakes. This one does the job, but it has 2 on either side right here below the arm, and then 2 more up top there above the arm. So there's one on the other side too. Has 4 tether attachments along the base. So there's 1, 2 right there, 3 in the back, and so actually no, I think it's 3 rather than 4, but it does come with those massive curly stakes, not just the regular ones, these big ones that regardless I'm not going to use them, but use those exact orange ones that I have it staked down with right now. It does lean and tilt a bit. I think that's why they put those up there, so you can like angle it back a bit. And of course with that 80, like I just talked about, it inflates like garbage, but this is a cool design. I can't take that away from them. This is a really neat design. I'm glad that they made a 20-foot haunted tree finally, and it's something different than just the regular haunted trees that we see over and over again. But as you can see with this arm, just regularly inflated, no pressure is being put on it or anything. It can barely really inflate this arm, so that's terrible right off the bat. But I'd like to see actually how these LEDs are at night, because I know my Airflow's 20-foot Frankenstein from last year actually lit up really well at night with all those LEDs, even though it doesn't really match the other ones and it looks kind of cheap with those LEDs. I do get where everyone else is coming from. But so with those tether attachments, that's actually, that's a pro, definitely, for sure. That I think they did that right. But I can always swap out the fan with a 125 and string some C7s in there. So that's not a big enough factor for me to not want to buy this one at all. From the back here, what I'd actually like to prefer, because I'm going to do a walkthrough, like that's how my displays are built, is this idea of a walkthrough. And of course this one's going to go in the back. I'd like to do, because people are going to walk back behind it here, I'd like to have another like route out of the back here, even though I know it's not necessary, because obviously it's intended to be viewed from the front. But because I know people are going to see it from the back, I would much rather prefer them to actually do a 4th one in the back there. But also, you need airflow in the back there, so that provides some airflow to it. But overall, it looks pretty iffy during the day. Another thing that I have seen here, there's no like big split seams, which is something I'm thankful for, where there's no like holes in it that I can see. But as you can see right here, this is just cheap stitching on this, because it's at home's typical, but you can't not keep buying these Gemmy ones, guys, because if I still encourage you to still keep buying them. I hope they would lower the price, and I hope Christmas is even better, because last year Christmas was pretty great, even though Halloween was kind of last year. So I hope that it's the same this way with Christmas this year, that Halloween wasn't too great, but hopefully Christmas is better. But if we stop showing support in Gemmy designs, they're just going to switch completely to Airflow stuff and that other third knockoff company. But so that's something that we definitely don't want for us Gemmy collectors. We definitely want them to keep going with these Gemmy designs, so that's why I got to show support in them. But I do like the design of this one. I like its size. So my intention is to have the 20-foot Frankenstein right next to it. So this is another thing I'd like to talk about. I wish those arms were closer to the body, actually, instead of so branched out, because it's hard to have another 20-footer right next to it, because obviously it's going to be, that Frankenstein has to be right next to that arm there, and I'm gonna have to put something smaller right here to create this like patch in between it so it doesn't look so gappy. But like I talked about earlier, that ghost up there, I mean, this tree does look great in person. Obviously the whole point of this video is to show that, I mean, the equipment that it comes with is not too great, but like I said at the beginning of the video, like that, I wish that ghost was actually smaller or wasn't there at all, because I just wish this one was just a basic haunted tree. The tree itself is a good enough size, and I like how that ghost, you know, if it were like half and half, like if it was a much smaller tree and that ghost took up even bigger, that'd be more of a problem, but I can deal with this. Obviously, I can live with the ghost being up there. I guess it does add some accent to it. Something, again, that of course I wish this one really had was short circuit. That's something that I was like, okay, hold off, guys. When we saw that picture and everyone was going nuts over how it had LEDs, that could be short circuit, but unfortunately it's not. But if I could put short circuit in this one, I would do green for sure. That just matches this haunted tree vibe much more. So that's something I would for sure do if I had, you know, if I was able to. Unfortunately, they do not sell replacement short circuit or anything like that. And the only place you can buy any Jemmy replacement parts officially from Jemmy is through Bob on Inflatables. So unless he eventually gets, you know, a replacement short circuit kit, that's kind of out of our hands on adding short circuit to a basic inflatable here. But overall, that is just all of my thoughts here on it inflated. Let's go ahead and get the night view. So of course, now that we've gone through everything about it, let's go ahead and rate it. So unfortunately, the design, obviously, so that design, I know I'm going to give it a great score, but with quality, I got to instantly say, before I do design, I got to say quality, because that's really the only big issue with this one, is that it's just not, it's a great design, but executed poorly. So with quality, I gotta go like a 4 out of 10. They just did not hit all the boxes with this one. I mean, not only does it have, well, actually that's not quite fair, because, you know, it does have all those amazing tether points that, I think that's a really strong, you know, that's a really strong way to tie it down. You know, they didn't really lack in anything. So it has like 4 tether attachments on the body and 3 on the base. So really, I have no concern that this one will not, you know, be stable out in the yard. But obviously with that fan and those LEDs, it's just, that takes something major away from it. So instead of a 4 out of 10, I'd go ahead and say 5 out of 10, because it's really the bare minimum that it can have. So 5 out of 10 is more than fair for quality here. But design, honestly, I gotta say design's a solid 7 out of 10. I like that this is a different haunted tree design. If we were thinking about getting a 20-foot haunted tree, if you picture that before this one ever came out, people instantly, I guess you would think of like the typical haunted tree designs, like the 12-footers that At Home just keeps getting over and over again. I think, you know, just especially with that reindeer, the original 20-foot reindeer, that was an 11-foot design originally that turned into a 20-foot design. So I would have definitely thought that those 12-footers would have become the new 20-footer, but thankfully they went with a brand new design that it's not terrible, in my opinion. It looks pretty decent, but it just doesn't have like that massive wow factor like a lot of the other ones, you know, like especially with that short circuit. Green short circuit would have accented this one amazingly. Maybe green, because I know that they could do double short circuit. They can do half and half, like on the haunted house and on the BJ's trio from a couple years ago. So I would love to see green short circuit in the tree and purple in the ghost, or white, which it would have made this one pop, and obviously it would have given me it would have given itself a great score, a much better score. But overall, 7 out of 10 is a pretty fair rating for design, and then quality, of course, has to be a 5 out of 10 at absolute max. I mean, I can't give it, a 6 or anything above that, because that quality is just such a massive issue. Other than that, then there's price. A reasonable price for this one. I mean, it is the same price as a lot of the other 20-footers, obviously, with the $200 price tag, but I think a more reasonable price for this one would for sure be $180, but I can't really complain too much about the price, because it's the same thing as all the other 20-footers, so it's not like you're paying extra for this one and it ends up being a letdown. So you're paying for quite what you're getting for. You're not paying extra to have a great 20-footer. This is the same price as all the other 20-footers. So overall, I'd say with price, I got to go right down the middle again with a 5 out of 10, but overall, I think a 6 out of 10 is a solid rating on this one overall, because it's just, it doesn't have anything like major that's why a lot of people are boycotting this one, is just because of the fan and the LEDs, is because it's the design itself for them doesn't really justify it having crappy equipment in it. But overall, those are just my thoughts on this one. This is the brand new for 2024 20-foot haunted tree inflatable with a ghost on top, being sold at home this year for $200. Overall, my thoughts on this one for sure are, get it if you know you can replace the fan in it, or you're willing to do even more money, or well, I don't really need to spend extra money. I have extra tornado fans, so that's not really something I'm worried about. But overall, get it if you really want it, if you need it for your display or something like me. That's why I wanted to get this one, is because it'll look great in the display. But overall, I cannot justify the crappy quality of it. But overall, this is a great design in my opinion, just executed kind of poorly. But it's okay, because you can save it, with you can put your own tornado fan in it. But overall, there's my review. Thank you guys so much for watching. I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace out. So a little bonus thing that I didn't actually talk about in the review is they start including this thing in the Colossal inflatable packs. I guess because of so many returns or refunds because of Colossal inflatables exploding in high wind. I know I've had a few of those already. So they include this high winds and extreme weather conditions. It's a piece of paper trying to tell you, if your area is experiencing high winds or extreme weather conditions, we recommend that you temporarily deflating your Colossal air balloon inflatable to avoid excess strain and possible damage to seams. So instead of actually fixing the problem with thicker fabric or anything, we'd rather just try to do the kind of Nintendo Wii, not our fault if you throw your controller through the TV kind of thing. So so that's pretty funny. And then another thing that I forgot to mention is that, in case anyone cares, the inflatable itself actually has 5 LEDs, 2 in the tree, 1 in the ghost, and 1 in each hand. So that's my finishing notes here.